Overwhelmed by the amount of workload? Hi, I'm Dr. Heather Williamson with Transformation Group, and we're a leadership consulting firm that believes every leader should be developed to their full potential. We listen to what the real challenges are causing you to feel burned out and customizing a coaching plan that guarantees success. If you're wanting to become a less stressed leader, call us at 804-598-9175 or check out our website at transformationgroupllc.com.
Good morning. You're listening to Dr. Heather Williamson, the Leadership Doc, on the host of Talking Leadership. And I am glad that you are with me this morning. I hope you have your cup of coffee because you are in for a treat. We are in for a treat. And I have as my guest today, Steve Smith. He is the owner of actually a great organization called High Tide Business Solutions. And this is a business that if you are a leader in your business and are wanting to figure out how you can be more effective and more efficient and actually generate some major profit, this is the man you're going to need to speak with. So welcome, Steve. I'm excited that you're here this morning.
So glad to be here, Heather.
So Steve actually comes from a corporate background where he has been in executive level positions for years, and he has since left corporate world and is now doing his own thing with and so I thought he would be a great asset for you guys listening today to really help you in your business. So share a little bit about High Tide Business Solutions.
Yes, I left the corporate world, and last stint of my corporate world was working with small businesses. I really enjoyed it and I was good at it. And out on my own, I'm working with local businesses to help build infrastructure that will help grow sales and profit margins. And that infrastructure could take the form of better hiring practices, internal processes, or even quantifiable metrics to manage your business with.
Which are all three really important things.
Pretty much, kind of the three legs of a stool.
Well, let's start with that first leg, all right?
Okay.
So what would that first leg, the most important leg, be when if you had to pick something to start with, really focus on in your business out of those three?
It's a toss-up, but probably getting the right people. Most businesses are started with a visionary who's great with the ideas, great at solving the big problems, but they're not so much into the details or the day-to-day or integrating those plans. And that's really getting the right people in place to start a business, set up the processes, and perform and integrate the business plan the way the visionary wants it is probably the first step.
So, and I know, and you obviously know, it is so important to have a vision of where you want your business to be. And not just today, but what is the years now that it used to be 10 to 15 years out? I don't think that's a rule anymore. I think it's
definitely probably a lot shorter than that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, when you hire people, you need to hire people, the right person. They've got to want it. They've got to be able to do it. And they have the capacity to do the job that you need them to do. Because when you hire them, you're going to have them for a while. And so it's important not to compromise and make your business work to fit a person. Is get the right people in the right seats to start with.
So what was your approach? And then when you are coaching your clients, how do you make sure that they're hiring the right people that are going to live, and breathe that vision?
The first thing is you really got to lay down what you want your business to look like. What is your org chart? What is your business plan? How do you want your brand to be? And work backwards as to what person do you need? What type of positions do you need? Is document the job responsibilities, the expectations, what that person is going to do, and go find the person to fill that job.
Mm-hmm. Which some people are, I struggle with that part, finding the person.
And you may not get it the first time, and it may take a couple people to get to the one that you need, but you've got to start with that intent. And as that your goal is to find the right person.
And I have a really strong opinion on not filling a job position just to have a warm body because you're short, you're short in
Exactly.
staff. I think that when you do that, you are really hurting the culture.
Mhm.
You're hurting the morale of the people that are there. If that person is not a good fit, but you just need a warm body to be able to, do the job. And I think it's important to really just kind of hold out as long as possible for that right person that is going to come along.
Yes, in the end, it's going to save you money, people, and resources if you hold out and get the right person versus just filling a seat. And having to do the rework, poor morale, and having to go through a hiring process eventually again when that person doesn't work out.
Exactly. So with regard to the best practices in the back office, what would that be?
Here again, you're really implementing the vision or the plan of the company, and that's really where it's important, just as in the hiring, knowing what you want your company to be is, so goes the processes, but some of it is basic. I just call it blocking and tackling, is having a repeatable process. Somebody that starts a business, they're doing it a lot themselves, and as they add people and grow, it's important to transfer that knowledge from the visionary into processes so that it can be repeatable and you're creating value for your company, because it's not dependent on any one or two people. You're building a sustainable business based on the processes to run the business.
I think when it comes to, and I know, the company that we have, that you were an executive with, it was a privately held company. And obviously people do what they want to do in a privately held company. You're not responsible to shareholders or anything like that. But I think when it comes to having that opportunity to be able to create, the vision, people, when they start their companies, they kind of do it because they used to work for maybe an organization like the one you left. And they're like, I can do this much better. And I don't have to work with some of the people that I'm forced to work with now. And so they're really great at doing the nuts and bolts.
Yes.
And then as the company grows, that leadership and being able to communicate effectively and, share that vision and make sure everybody's on board and engaged, that's a whole nother animal skill set.
Yes. And that's really where getting the right leadership, where is to getting the people that can do things better than you or what the company is needing to get done. And being able to realize that and make those decisions early on in your business so that you can grow and bringing in the right people, having the processes. And if you have the right processes, as people grow in their jobs, the person coming in behind that person will step into a well-defined position, and your employee engagement and retention will go up because their jobs is well known what they have to do and what's expected of them.
So let's talk about that second leg of the stool.
Okay.
So what is that second leg again, and why is that important?
Establishing the business practices.
Was that the second leg?
That was the second one we talked about, or the third, metrics.
Metrics, yes.
Metrics.
So let's talk about key business metrics. What would those look like?
Really comes down to breaking your business down. Say, recent client is a wholesale distributor, and some of the key components there is it's buying product, selling it, and servicing the customer. But to do that, you have to have inventory. So very simple one was inventory. You walk into the facility, was obviously inventory was very heavy. looked at their processes, and they didn't really have any established. We walked through and put in some industry standard type purchasing processes and the way they track and manage their inventory. And in 90 days, they dropped their inventory by 15% or $300,000.
Which
But
is a lot of cash.
it's a lot of cash. But the metric was every periodically, we were, really probably a month once things settled down. But initially, it was like every week we'd sit down and look at the amount of inventory. And that was the metric. So if you can measure what you're trying to achieve, you can better manage it. Whether it's the miles on the delivery truck, by putting in a routing software, we were able to reduce the miles that his trucks were driving because the delivery drivers were missing turns, not knowing where they're going, and we were able to reduce their miles. So by tracking the miles driven on their delivery van was a metric, very quantifiable, black and white. And we saw that number drop with the implementation of a routing software.
Those are huge. And it's, if you think about it, it's really so simple. But when you're in running the business, those things are just not top of mind. And I think, somebody with your skill set that has been in a COO position, you have that experience and background to be able to see opportunities where a business owner may not see that.
That's just it. Somebody that's not caught up in the current fray of the business can objectively recommend things to the owners and give the pros and cons of each opportunity or alternative. And usually that's what it takes for an owner to really realize what they need to do.
So how would somebody get in touch with you, Steve?
I have a website, hightidebusinesssolutions.com, or Steve Smith, one word, at hightidebusinesssolutions.com.
So there you go. If you are trying to improve your processes, trying to see where there's waste in the organization, opportunity, that is, gather that information from Steve and give him a call. So when it comes to what have you seen out there in your experience that are, you talked about mileage, on a car and, fuel cost, and then inventory waste. What other opportunities are there?
On the sales side, I think a lot of times sales are left on the table because people aren't asking for them. Most of the time someone will come in and say, I need X, Y, and Z. And the salesman takes the order and gives them X, Y, and Z without really asking, well, tell me about your project, or what are you going to be using these products for? And really understanding the full life cycle of that job. And when you do that, you may understand, well, this is what he wants to do, but the product he's buying isn't the best one for that. Or he may need boxes, nails, or these certain tools to do that he's not thinking about. And that's where you get the add-on sales, or you can increase your sales or your margin mix from each transaction. So some of it, it's just the sales coaching, people moving your salesperson from an order taker to a salesperson.
Exactly.
That's pretty much, that's it. The internal processes are really, it's just trying to gain the efficiencies. Can a piece of software improve the efficiency, but it could just help eliminate errors? Because sometimes you need to look at your company as how much time is spent correcting missed shipments, wrong orders, or it's just redoing problems. And then if you kind of go back and find the root cause and fix those, then you've gained a lot of that capacity back, which is in essence money, where you can, redeploy that person to do things that are actually growing the company. But those are kind of areas where I specialize, the process flow, sales, best practices around hiring and organizational, getting the right people, and then the metrics. And the metrics are really, that's the scorecard. That really tells it all. I've always run a lot of my businesses in the past with the metrics where every day I had the pulse of what was going on. And I did it when I ran distribution for the eastern half of the United States, millions of miles in trucking and warehouses. But every day I could look at my metrics and pretty much tell where my inventory turns were, where my cost per mile, and everything I needed to run my business. And that's really, that's kind of the end game where you can, your business inside and out and how it's running.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you're in the CEO role, or it's really hard to stay on top of that unless you make it a mission where you're looking at your numbers. You were looking at them every day, and focusing on that so you see opportunities that kind of throw their heads up and say, hey, I know we can do better on this, and really be open to that.
And that's a good point, because some of this is, and I'm not saying all you do is sit behind a desk and look at these numbers. That's a piece of it. That's going to tell you where to look. But nothing replaces is getting out and be a part of your business. Go talk to your customers, talk to your competition, be out and really talk to your workers in your plants, your office. You got to have your pulse on everything, but the metrics are really the one thing that are objective. They're numbers, and it's going to help you know where to focus or ask more questions.
Mm-hmm. And I think going back to the customers is really important, because if you're an order taker, you're not really meeting customer expectations.
Right.
You're just, because they're going to go home and whatever it is that they thought they needed doesn't work. And if you have someone that is more invested in their project, let's say, and really is trying to understand what it is that they need, not what they want, but what they need in order to make their project a success, then you're creating customer loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to go a long ways.
Yes, one of the biggest things I heard from my customers was, I didn't know you carried that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like, I didn't know you were building 15 homes. I just thought you were buying for one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where engaging, or always making sure your customers know what your offerings are, or just communicating with them is really huge, because that's where the sales opportunities. You'll sell more growing your existing business better than you can try and get cold business.
Mm-hmm. Acquiring new customers, which is expensive.
It is. That's
yes.
what I was trying to say. Yeah.
We're like, let's get it short and sweet to the point.
Yes.
So yes, because I have looked at that, studied that. So yeah, having repeat business is a lot cheaper because you're not having to market, and oh yeah, it's a lot cheaper. So what else should and what type of revenue businesses do you work with? When you're talking about processes, what annual revenue should businesses be really looking at this?
Probably 10 to 30, 40 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's the smaller ones. It's the companies that have been in business they've either been in business 3 to 5 years, or they've gotten to a plateau and they need to break out growth, whether it's an expansion, or their time they have to do something in their business. They either need to grow or get out.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the times, businesses can, redefine themselves and move on, but predominantly it's a business that is growing faster than their infrastructure, and they need someone to come in that can take projects and take it offline and do the things, and then help the business owner get the infrastructure in place while the business owner is still running the business.
So what would some key signs be if when a business is growing more rapidly than expected, where they would need, let's say, your services or to really think about process improvement?
Employees working excessive hours, or you start to see employee burnout. The profit margins dropping, you see sales, and I'm selling everything. We're working so hard, but we're not making the money I thought we'd make.
What about inventory? Maybe
Inventory, when your building gets so full, you can't really move around in it. Or the other side is you're constantly out of stock because the triggers aren't in place to prompt your purchaser to be purchasing the goods in time to have it there to sell. If you don't have it, a lot of times you're not going to be able to sell it. So some of the extremes in that regards, either way. But some of those are the signs, or, you know, the quality of life. If the owner is just there 24/7 and not seeing his family. I've had one bring me in solely for that. He goes, I've got to get away from this place. And so it was bringing in.
He's going, help me do it.
Yeah.
Get me out of here.
And some of that is, it's just, they need kind of a, I don't want to use the term bad guy, but they need somebody to come in that can make those decisions and help get the employees in a place where the owner doesn't have to necessarily be there every day or work the way they do.
I know I've been a bad guy or a bad girl in companies where, and, you know, of course I focus on working with those in a leadership role, but it may be somebody where they're trying to make changes within the organization, but you don't have employees that are on board with those changes. And even though you have done everything that you can to get them engaged and on board. And I'm like, sometimes, you know, I'll be glad to be the bad cop and, you know, blame it on me, but your people are going to appreciate you a lot more when you actually address the issues rather than letting it slide. And then your other employees are saying that, you know, there's either they're going to be perceived as favoritism.
And some of that is just some of the processes in place and the organizational chart. When you can establish clear accountability, a lot of times that will, I've seen turn employees around where they see things are getting done and the company's going in the right direction, and they'll re-engage. And it puts pressure on the ones that are still underperforming, and it becomes obvious. But so it does work both ways. It will identify the underperformers, but it'll re-engage the ones that really want to be there.
Which is always good. We always want to engage our people. So what do you think from your experience would be, let's say, a number one thing that a business owner should think about? What would be your leadership tip? And I'm putting them on the spot.
Yeah, the wheels are turning. The number one thing. I think is having a good plan that brings with it a strong culture of engagement for the employees and leadership, where it's a good place to work. Doesn't necessarily have to be the funnest place, but the employees feel engaged, building a good product, and they believe in the plan, and everything just kind of works. It's kind of hard to, I'm not one for big words, but it's just, everyone gets it. And it's just a good place to work, and it's rewarding because you see results. And I think that's what business owners need to strive for. And it kind of goes back to where we started, is don't settle on underperformers.
Yeah.
And
it is, I mean, that you cannot stress that enough, really.
Right.
Because you're going to have, I'm sorry, underperformers in every organization. And there is a new term that is going, and I'm just drawing a blank on it. I probably shouldn't even brought it up, but there's a new term that's being used in organizations. Oh yeah, quiet quitting. Thank you very much, Steve. So quiet quitting, yeah, where the employee is just, you know, doing the minimum just to get by, basically, not putting forth a lot of effort, just pretty much coasting.
Mhm.
And that is not the type of employee that you want working for you. So it's so important to try and re-engage that person, figure out, why is it that they're quietly quitting, and try to get them back on board.
Yeah, in a big corporation where you have hundreds of employees, there's ways to work around and probably don't have the impact. But if you've only got 10 or 15 employees, and one or two employees like that can really bring a small business down.
Mhm.
And that's really, if the small business owner, local owner can create a culture that keeps the employees engaged and the company thrives, everybody wins. And to do that, you may have to make some tough decisions.
On that note, thank you very much, Steve, for being my guest today. Share with them, those who are listening, how they can get in touch with you again.
www.hightidebusinesssolutions.com, or Steve Smith, one word, at hightidebusinesssolutions.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, and hopefully those who are listening got a lot of information out and are going to help you in your business and your leadership role. So that is going to do it for us today. Thank you for listening to Talking Leadership with Dr. Heather Williamson, your leadership doc, on ESPN 106.1 FM. And I will see you next Monday morning at 5:30. So until then, have an amazing day. Bye.